What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back to talk about Lions training camp. Lions training camp begins to wind down as we get prepared for this season. But we have some takeaways, so let's get it started.
Up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we're back to talk about Lions training camp as the final day open to the public is now in the books. Tomorrow is only open to season ticket members, and that's it. That's it with training camp. That's a wrap. Then we're done after tomorrow. So yes, we are really getting ready to close the book on Lions training camp as we fly into the preseason and the regular season. And look, I want to get back to talking about the Lions preseason game against Buffalo. The goal is to do that tomorrow. All right, that's the plan, is to talk a little bit about the Bills game a little bit more tomorrow. Some of the depth guys, some guys that stuck out, some guys that didn't. Take a look at some schematic things that we didn't look at, in our first video looking back at the Bills game. So that's the goal for tomorrow. But today was training camp. Of course I was there. It was the final day open to the public. I had to be there. And I have some notes from Lions training camp today. All right, now I'm going to try to make this one much shorter because I do have a show tonight with Rad on this channel, so I got to get over there. So I'm not sure when this video is coming out. There's a very good chance this comes out pretty darn late because I'm not able to get this up before our live show, but we'll see what happens. Either way, we have some takeaways. Got to give a shout out to my man at training camp that said what's up, Cheryl. Now, I always see you in the comment section, so to meet you in person was pretty darn awesome, okay? So shout out to you. But let's talk about Lions training camp today, okay? So here are the notes that I do have. Now, I don't have a full participation report like sometimes I do. I'm kind of getting this one much quicker. However, I do have some notes from who I did not see there and who I saw participating. First off, no DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift was there at practice. He was going through walkthroughs, but he was not really available in drills. And actually, before practice started, Dan Campbell said that DeAndre Swift was really not going to practice today. He'd be back tomorrow. He's okay, but they're trying to take care of him. He'll be back tomorrow in limited fashion. They're going to try to work him back, but they want to take care of DeAndre Swift. And he also said that Levi, the second-round pick out of Washington, would be back at practice today, which we saw. He was back, limited in team drills, but the plan is for him to keep having bigger and bigger days as the week goes on, heading into our second preseason game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. By the way, speaking of the preseason games, they said they would scheme a little bit more for the second game, a little bit more for the third game, and of course, well, when it's regular season, I mean, that's all you're basically doing. But I just thought I would point that out. Levi was back at practice. He was out there. He was actually giving out autographed footballs at the end. It would have been cool to get one. I know Rad, he loves Levi. Like, that was his dude. So that would have been pretty cool to be able to give him one. But unfortunately, we weren't able to. But he was out there giving out autographs. He was available in some team drills. It was definitely limited. He was kind of in and out. But he got some high reps as well. It was just nice to see this dude back on the field. And DeAndre Swift was out there. That was cool. He did do drills, but he didn't do the same drills that everybody else did. Okay, now it wasn't a padded day for the Lions. From what I could tell, I don't think they were actually wearing pads today. So it really wasn't a super physical day. May have had shoulder pads on, I can't really tell, but it wasn't like they were hitting each other or anything like that. Like they were kind of just two-hand touch, below the play dead. They hit some pads, but that was basically it. It wasn't a super physical day as they're getting back into practice this week. Continuing with the participation, we did see Brashad Perriman again today. We didn't see him in the game on Friday, but we saw him today. He seemed to be sort of limited, like kind of in and out with Khalif Raymond, but he was there, and he was involved, and he was mixing with the first-team offense. So it's nice to see Brashad Perriman back. I would love to see this guy play in a preseason game. Hopefully that's the case this weekend. But yes, he was back this week. Corn Elder was there, but he was not practicing. He didn't really practice at all. He basically just kind of walked around with his teammates, stayed by the defensive backs group, but that was pretty much it out of Corn Elder. So hopefully he's able to get back soon. No sighting of Tim Boyle today.
Hey, no! What? Did I forget to wipe my mud flaps?
We know that he, got hit low in the first preseason game against Buffalo. There was a flag on it. He actually came back and played through it, but he wasn't even there today from what I could tell. So no Tim Boyle sighting, which meant that David Blau would lead the second team offense today. And also there was no sighting of TJ Hockenson. I couldn't even find the guy. I was looking for him because my sister was like, hey, where's Hockenson? I don't know. I can't find the dude out here. So I didn't see those two players, which obviously is not great, but we'll see how that goes, and hopefully we can get them back soon. Michael Brockers was also out there today. He was dressed up. I don't think he did too much team drills, but he was out there. He's definitely healthy, and he's going to be ready to go. Actually, after practice, he gave out some autographs, so that was pretty cool. But now we do have some Lions news before we get into what training camp had in store for us today. As the Lions have made a couple of more roster moves, and I thought I might as well just throw it in this video. We'll probably talk about it a little bit during the stream. But the Lions have cleared up a couple more roster spots as we have to get down to 85 players by tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Currently, we are right now at 87 players after 2 official cuts that were made today. And Dan Campbell said before practice started that there were some guys they were talking about, but they haven't been official yet. Well, after practice, they became official. The Lions have released Michael Warren II. That's not really something that's new to us. We've actually talked about this in the past. He was on that injured list as well, but now he has officially been released. So Michael Warren II is no longer here. We talked about him, but again, wishing him the best of luck. I have the autographed ball, so, it kind of hurts a little bit. But yes, Michael Warren has been released, the running back. And, look, the Lions have already brought in running backs to fill in that spot. We saw Craig Reynolds ball out. Of course, we have Javon Leak, Jamar Jefferson today. Great sighting. He was practicing much more. That was awesome. So Jamar Jefferson was out there a ton today with the first unit running around. Again, it was not really a physical day, but he got a lot of reps. And that was cool to see because last week he didn't really have many. And then in the preseason game, he only had 4 carries. So to see him get right back into the flow of things was great. Speaking on roster moves we made, we've also released tight end Charlie Taumapau. Now, Charlie was someone that every time Dan Campbell talked about it, he was like, yeah, kind of like there's potential there, but he's young. He's very unpolished, but he's got a lot of things, that he's got to clean up. And it seemingly was becoming a little bit more clear and clear as days went on who the guys were at that tight end position. Hawk 1, Fells 2, we knew that. Alize Mack has still pretty much gotten the rest for the third tight end. But we've seen Brock Wright get involved a little bit as well. Jake Hausman has already been released. Very unfortunate with Alex Brown. It's actually unfortunate that this wasn't just because the Lions wanted to see young cornerbacks. It came out today that he was charged with driving under the influence, going the wrong way on I-75. Apparently, he got in a crash with teammate Charlie Taumapau, who has also been waived today. Now, if he goes unclaimed, he'll actually land back with the Detroit Lions on Tuesday. We'll see what the Lions would decide to do at that point. Now that has been done and we get this report, this is really scary, and you hate to see this. This just isn't good. I mean, just simply put, this obviously is not good. That's something that I hate to hear for everybody, in that situation. And you just hope they can learn from it, right? And obviously that's something that we didn't know about when they initially released him. But yeah, not now that we do know it, it kind of is like, oh, okay, so that's what happened. But you really hate to hear that. So very unfortunate event that took place, but that's where the Lions are at right now with their roster. The Lions placed center/guard Evan Boehm on injury reserved. Okay, now that's not good news. By the way, those 2 guys that the Lions released, both of those players did not play on Friday. Just so you know, Charlie didn't play on Friday. He was injured. Same thing with Michael Warren. So neither of those guys participated on Friday. So you didn't miss anything from Friday. But Evan Boehm has been placed on injury reserve, which is not something that you want to hear. Of course, that's not good news at all. A guy that's been working with the second team as a guard, not the center position. With Evan Heim coming back, he was holding down the backup center role, so you had a guy like Evan Boehm playing, the backup guard role because we were missing some Tommy Kramer. But then, of course, when Evan Boehm was not there due to an injury, we had Matt Nelson sliding to the guard position, and that was very interesting. I didn't think it went extremely well. But Darren Powell had, the second team reps basically as our tackle, and I thought Darren Powell really struggled watching the Buffalo Bills game back. I mean, I'll have to go check it out again, but I thought he really struggled in that game. I wrote his name down a few times. So the offensive line was definitely getting mixed up a little bit with some of the injuries. However, with the guard position, we do have some good news, is that Dan Campbell spoke pretty highly of Logan Stenberg earlier today, saying that, hey, Logan Stenberg must have heard what I said, that we need to see kind of vast improvement out of him, because since then he's looked much better. He said even in the Friday game, he lacked some fundamental things, but he's looked much better. A couple of drills that the Lions ran today that stuck out to me, drills that I have not seen before. First off, the running back position. They were working with like resistance bands where a teammate would hold on to them and they would kind of just work their way forward. It was almost like keeping your legs turning through all the contact in a pile. That's kind of what it seemed like they were doing. And at this time, DeAndre Swift was not involved in this drill, which makes sense if they're trying to nurse a groin injury. He was off to the side actually doing what looked like a 3-cone drill. That kind of takes you back to the combine a little bit. So I thought that was an interesting note that he was doing something a little bit different, a little less, I would say, physically tasking on your body, but he was working on his quickness and footwork, things like that. And the defensive backs, I believe this was the defensive backs, they're working on tackling some pads. Now, today was a little bit rainy, so it was a little bit slippery, but they were just diving out, lunging, diving on the pads. That just looked like a fun drill. That's why I wrote it down, because it simply just looked fun. Today was a very situational day. What do I mean by that? Like 4-minute drills, 2-minute drills, up 4, down 4. Like that's kind of what today was. We didn't get like the one-on-one reps, receiver versus defensive backs. We didn't get the one-on-one defensive line versus offensive line because there was no pads. So it was kind of like a light, not a lot of hitting, situational day for the Lions. Working up by 4, down by 4, controlling the clock, things like that, clock management. That's what today was about. 2-minute drill. It was all that. So it was kind of cool to see. And like I said, offensively, it was Jared Goff and David Blau. We did not have Tim Boyle today to lead an offensive group. So it was basically 2 groups offensively, 2 groups defensively, which kind of got mixed matched as we went for both sides of the ball. But the first group, it was kind of started by the defense, and it was actually Jelani Tavai that made the play. It was kind of nice to see him come out there and make the first play that really stuck defensively. That was Jared Goff. He did a little bit of a play action rollout. And again, offensively, they were trying to milk the clock. So he did a play action rollout, and Jelani Tavai showed a little bit of that speed, closing on Jared Goff, forcing him to slide down inbounds. It was smart by Jared Goff to slide down inbounds. I think technically the defense took a timeout because you wonder, why did Jared Goff, why would he slide down inbounds? Why would he not just throw it away? If you're down by 4, you would want to do that. But he slid down inbounds. Looking back at it, it's because he wanted to run the clock. So looking back, it was actually a very smart play by Jared Goff to slide inbounds. But they lost 2 yards, but it was nice to see Jelani Tavai close on that and, force a 2-yard loss. Then they hit a flat route to St. Brown, which actually went for 9 yards. Nickel Roby Coleman in coverage. Now, this was the first team offense versus the second team defense. We saw A.J. Parker take a lot of snaps with the first team defense again today, and Roby Coleman with the second team. Really, what I'm noticing is that's kind of how the Lions are doing it. A.J. Parker gets some first team reps, also some second team as well. Roby Coleman may mix a little bit. They kind of hold down the slot/nickel position, and then on the outside, they're using Mike Ford a lot more. All right, every once in a while they'll put him inside, but they're using him a lot more on the outside now, and I think that's what the Lions are trying to figure out is who to use where. And we're seeing A.J. Parker get a lot of big reps. Now, remember, Nickel Roby Coleman is still kind of getting acclimated. Really, the first time we saw him going with the team was actually during the game against the Buffalo Bills. A lot of times it was just working after practice, but today he was involved in team drills, and he actually flashed a couple of times through my notes. They went to a Jamal 1-yard run, then they came out with a toss play. Jalen Reese-Maybin and Jelani Tavai shut that thing down, really nowhere to go. And then they handed it off to Jamar Jefferson on the 3rd and 8. They went to a zone stretch play, and I was like, why would you do that? But of course it was to, run the clock. Second time through this drill offensively, and I don't completely understand what the situation was here. It seemed like they were down, but at the end of the drive, they made a decision which kind of confused me, and we'll get to that. I thought they were down 4. Maybe they were only down by 3, though. Maybe they were only down by 3, but there's about 4 minutes on the clock. But this time around, the offense moved the ball well. Now, there were no pads on, so it was kind of tough to judge whether or not, the defensive line was actually able to get that much pressure. But I can tell you that they didn't. I can tell you that. I mean, Jared Goff had a lot of time in the pocket today, so it's kind of tough to actually judge, whether or not this was just because there was not pads on. But regardless, Goff did have an opportunity to go through his progressions today, start down the field, and work his way through his reads. We really couldn't get a great evaluation of rushing the football either because there were no pads. They're lacking that physical side. So it was more about, passing the football. Roby Coleman flashed a few times today, but on this drive, it started off with a pass to Khalif Raymond over the middle, which was, brought down by Jelani Tavai for about 5 yards. Then they took a shot to Amon-Ra St. Brown, not a deep shot, but then they threw it to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and A.J. Parker almost had an interception here. He jumped on this for a pass breakup. He's had a couple of opportunities to make big plays defensively. He just hasn't come through. But clearly he's getting good reps, and he seems to be in a good spot right now with this team where he is on the roster. So I will say they are taking note of his playmaking ability. I wasn't saying he was perfect today, but there's been a lot of opportunities to make some big plays. He's going to get one. I'm telling you, he's going to get one, and he's going to flash, and he's going to get talked about a lot because he's been in position. But then Jared Goff came back and took a shot to Tyrell Williams, which ended up falling incomplete. That brought up a 4th and 5, and that's where, of course, Jared Goff went to reliable Amon-Ra St. Brown for 5 yards. I believe it was a quick little out route, but really when he's needed it, we saw it on the Family Fest. We've seen it tons of times. When he needs it, Amon-Ra St. Brown a lot of times becomes the option because he's, able to get a lot of separation underneath. You need 5 yards. He gets far enough. He doesn't run the route short, but he gets that separation, and he's got very, very secure hands. And we saw that again here. He moved the chains. Goff came back and hit a deep corner route to Khalif Raymond. Raymond's been getting a lot of separation. Khalif Raymond's been fantastic one-on-one. If you leave this guy one-on-one, he can get a lot of space. And he hit him on a deep corner route at least 20 yards down the field. It was nice. It was probably the biggest pass that Jared Goff had of the day aside from 7-on-7s. But it was nice to see that. He got a little cheer from the crowd. This one was to Amon-Ra St. Brown, where it was pretty much just broken coverage defensively. St. Brown was wide open on the sideline. Jared Goff hit him for, I would say, about 15 more yards. That ended up putting them on a 25-yard line. It was coming off of the 2-minute warning, so that's kind of where you were time-wise. And then Jared Goff said, hey, I'm going to test my luck. I'm going to take a one-on-one shot to the end zone. And that's exactly what he did. He took a one-on-one right sideline shot to Tyrell Williams, little jump ball shot here. Maybe he could have thrown a little bit higher. It's kind of tough to tell by my angle. Regardless, it was fantastic coverage from Jeff Okudah. He went up, made a pass breakup, and Amani flashed a couple times today as well. They don't target Okudah a ton, though. They just really don't. Okudah was in a great spot to Brashad Perriman, who caught about a 5-yard out. That brought up a 3rd and 5 play. They hit Amon-Ra St. Brown once again, about 1 minute to go. I would say they were from about the 10-yard line. An end zone pass from Jared Goff, which was pretty good ball placement. He didn't throw a jump ball. He threw it instead kind of through like his back shoulder in the end zone, right about the front pylon. So he tried to throw it like to this side where Jerry Jacobs was in coverage, but Jacobs had a really good positioning. I wouldn't say he broke it up, but it fell incomplete with him in coverage, and that brought up a 2nd down. Then they threw an underneath route, which was brought down short by Michael Ford. And then finally, it was a 3rd and short. They were trying to punch it into the end zone. I think it was a 1st and goal situation or a 3rd and goal situation. And that's when they threw it to Amon-Ra St. Brown over the middle on a quick slant. And from my angle, I think he dropped it. It looked like it just bounced right off his hands or his pads. It fell incomplete, and that brought up a 4th down. It's drill the receivers work on every day in practice. They go behind pads, and they have to catch it behind the pads, basically as if it was a linebacker or the defensive line and offensive line, catching between those little holes. And I think that's kind of what this was. So I do like to have a drill that's preparing for that. It's a very tough drill. I don't know how they do it, but this one fell incomplete. I believe they brought out the field goal unit on a 4th down, but it's possible that pass to St. Brown was the 4th down play, and since they didn't convert, they just brought the field goal unit anyways, because I think they were down by 4. So that's very possible that was a playoff in this sequence. Good news with the special teams is that Randy Bullock was really good again today, and he actually made one from 50 plus based on my calculations. All right, so they brought him out there. He knocked the field goal down. Zane Gonzalez also took the same attempt from the same spot. It was basically an extra point. They both knocked us through. Then they moved back to the 30-yard line. Randy Bullock knocked it through. Zane Gonzalez missed this kick from my viewing angle. I think Randy Bullock definitely won the day because he was 100% in terms of kicking, but they did take the field goal. The defense was able to get a stop in the red zone, which was a big deal. They definitely bet. Goff did his thing. He does that well. When he gets protection, this dude moves the ball very efficiently. All right, even if he's not able to get all the shots, he can move the ball pretty darn efficiently down the field, and that's what we saw. But when the defense needed the most, they did step up. Mike Ford was a big part of that. He was also in coverage on the slant. We do quickly a 7-on-7 drill, which this is where Jared Goff really popped out to me today in practice because he looked pretty darn good. I mean, the guy looked like he was on a little bit in 7-on-7s. I'm just going to show some love there because he's in pretty darn crisp with it. This was the first-string offense against the first-string defense, sort of. Again, they did have things mixed in. Like, they had A.J. Parker out there, who definitely could be with the first string this season. We'll see what they decide to do there. He was out there. We saw Jamar Jefferson get some reps. Jamar played a lot today, so that was nice to see. He's definitely getting healthier. Jamal would mix in with Jamar Jefferson, but we saw Jamar out there. But 7-on-7 was pretty. I'm going to be honest. It was pretty for Jared Goff. It really just popped off, and this was the Tyrell Williams, and it was a beautiful pass. It was a zone coverage drop where the cornerbacks were playing underneath, and he just lofted it right over the underneath cornerback on the right sideline to Tyrell Williams. It almost looked like the pass against the Buffalo Bills, to be honest with you. It was a dot between the safety and the cornerback. He just lofted that. It wasn't a bully. He just dropped it right in the basket. It was pretty, sitting on the sideline. So he just popped it off with a great pass. He came back with an underneath route, but that was forced by A.J. Parker. A.J. Parker, who was on St. Brown, followed him out on a deep wheel route, which off of Jared Goff's break, off of his plant, he was staring direct, like I was in a great vision line. He was staring directly at Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he couldn't throw it there. A.J. Parker had great positioning. He looked there, and then he just went right underneath to the check down. There was a couple times Parker forced that today, and then Jared Goff had one. He had another beautiful dive, and this one was to Quintez Cephas. Cephas ran a little bit of a post route down the middle of the field. Amani Oruwariye in coverage, and Amani wasn't in a terrible spot. I wouldn't even give it a step to Cephas, maybe a little bit less than that. But with no safety over the middle, Jared Goff put this in a beautiful spot. He put it right in front, out in front where Amani couldn't reach it. You saw him swing his arm, and he just could not reach the football. Cephas just, bam, right here. It was pretty, and it was a bullet, too. It wasn't a flow. It was a laser. And Tom Kennedy came back. He beat Jalen Reeves-Maybin on a quick slant in the middle of the field. I think Tom Kennedy quietly deserves some love. He's been getting some secretly high reps with the Lions, kind of interchanging. And when they were doing punt drills today, they were doing it with Khalif Raymond and Tom Kennedy. Victor Bolden came over later, but Kennedy seems to be one of those guys just to keep your eye on. I mean, it's going to be tough to make the team. It really will be. And there's some nice receivers here, but you never know. And he made some big receptions. Dan Campbell said he wanted to see him on the field a little bit more. He made some big plays. I'm just saying, Kennedy, this could be his chance to break through. It's not going to be easy, but you have a new staff. You have a receiver group that's a lot of cheap deals. Why not? Then you go back to the secondary side, and this is where Will Harris made a nice play. Will Harris slid down in coverage from the safety position on a shot to the end zone from Jared Goff. And I think Goff realized it because it looked like he intentionally threw it high. I mean, there was no chance for anybody to catch it. Threw it out of the back of the end zone. But that was Will Harris sliding down. He kind of slapped himself in the head, I believe, showing some excitement, but also like, dang, I could have made a play on the football. The final play of this drill was a pass caught by Brashad Perriman for a touchdown, but it took a long time. Now, there's no offensive line or defensive line, so there's really no sack potential here, through this drill, unless they bring like a blitz, like they bring a safety blitz, but he doesn't even blitz. He kind of just sits there. So he's just trying things out defensively. But regardless, Jared Goff had it, looked left, and I didn't see exactly what Amani did, but I can tell you after the play, he got a lot of love from the sideline. You could just hear him yelling at him like, good stuff, Amani. I mean, that's what they were doing. But Jared Goff looked that way, held it for a little while, then rolled out. It was very late in the play. He could have been sacked by this point or had to throw it away. Rolled out and threw it to Brashad Perriman, who caught the touchdown, but it was pretty late in the play. Regardless, though, apparently it was a pretty good rep for Amani, who flashed a few times today. Moving on to the second unit, definitely wasn't as crisp. It started out with an out route to Tom Kennedy, which was thrown behind him. It fell incomplete. He was unable to turn around and make the catch, so it fell incomplete. Then they threw a wheel route to Godwin Igwebuike, who was wide open. Absolutely, I mean, it looked like a busted coverage. He was wide open, and he dropped it. However, that's when we saw Amon-Ra St. Brown working with the second unit. A high pass here to Amon-Ra St. Brown, just splitting the safeties deep in the back of the end zone, and St. Brown went up for it, toe tap and everything in the back of the end zone. It was pretty. Ended up getting their touchdown out of it. Now, after the touchdown, they moved it to about the 10-yard line, and that's when Nickel Roby Coleman had coverage on Darius Jennings, where I think Jennings caught it. I mean, he was getting some love from his teammates, but you saw Nickel Roby Coleman going like this. I wasn't sure if he caught it or not. He was in a great spot. They threw a low pass to the ground, so could have easily smacked across the ground. I don't know. He threw it low out of the way of Roby Coleman because he was in a great spot, and it may have fell incomplete. It may have been a catch. I can't tell you for sure, but either way, it was a pretty cool rep. So maybe it was a good catch for Darius Jennings and a good throw for Blau, or maybe it was Roby Coleman flashing again, and that came in 7-on-7s, and that kind of wrapped up the drill there. 7-on-11 drills, and we saw the first team defense work against the second team offense. Again, it was very mixed match. So this time around, the first team defense included Levi, which was awesome. Kevin Strong, okay, that's very possible this season. We see him get some good reps. Bruce Hector once again, and Derek Barnes. He got some reps in here as well. He actually was the first guy to make the play. It was a handoff who they called it a loss of 2. He may have flown by a little bit. I don't know if you've been able to wrap up in a game here, but he did get to the backfield. He made the stop in the backfield, and they called it a loss of 2. And we had a pass breakup on Brashad Perriman, and the Lions were running a lot of 13 personnel this time around. 13 personnel being 3 tight ends, 1 running back. Even a guy on the sideline was holding up with a 13 sign. They ran a lot of 13 personnel. They put 3 tight ends, Fells, I think it was Mack, and also, who was the other tight end they had out there? Because there was no Hawkinson, so I don't remember. But they had a lot of tight ends, and they'd go 1 receiver. Brashad Perriman, one time, he looked a little lost. He was on the left side, and they're like, hey, go all the way across. He went all the way across, and they ended up getting thrown that way, and I think that's when Amani had the PBU on a quick out route. The other side, where we got to see the first string offense against the second team defense led by Jared Goff. Usually what happens is the first string wins, which is good. The first string usually wins their battles, as they should. You should see that. But then we got the first string offense against second string defense, and I think this was real. They were down by 3 points. I know that for sure, and they were moving the ball well, and this time around, it started off with a Darren Fells pass, which went for about 5 yards. Then we saw Darren Fells make a pretty move on Jalen Elliott. I haven't seen this a ton. Went a little out route, then broke back inside. It was pretty, kind of like an angle route, and he got a lot of space on Jalen Elliott. Nice play, big over the middle for a completion. A.J. Parker, who was in fantastic coverage on Tom Kennedy, where it forced a no pass again. The second time I noted him doing this. I'm sure other guys did it because the secondary played well, it seemed like, but A.J. Parker flashed a couple of times. I can't lie to you here. This time with the second group, he was on Tom Kennedy, who ran a corner route, and he was in a trailing position, but when Kennedy faked in, he faked back, and he came back out, I mean, he was right on that hip. Right in the hip pocket, and it forced no pass there from Jared Goff. He had to go right back underneath. An out route for Tom. This time they hit Tom Kennedy on A.J. Parker. Short little out route. And that's kind of how they were moving the ball. That brings us to 1:19 on the clock. That's when Dan Campbell kind of stopped it. They were already probably in field goal range. He coached them up a little bit. The dump off being forced underneath to Jamal Williams. Goff took a shot in the end zone, this time to Darren Fells. He threw it a little bit high. Elijah Holder was a man-to-man coverage, so he had the size advantage that he wanted. He just threw it a little bit high to get it behind the defense, but he threw it a little bit too high. It went over his head and sailed out of bounds out of the end zone. Arrow route to Jamal Williams, who got a short little gain that brought up about a 4th and 5. And this is when, again, we got to see Aaron Glenn do what Aaron Glenn does. Timely blitzing. That's exactly what he did with the Bills. I thought it was fantastic against the Bills. You saw him bring some blitzes to get him off the field in that final drive, force some dump-offs, and that's exactly what he did again in this drill. He brought a timely blitz from the safety position. Elijah Holder ran in and blitzed Jared Goff. The offensive line did not pick it up. They got the pressure. Goff backpedaling, just had to flick it out like in 1 second. It fell short, incomplete. That was it. That was 4th down, and that would have got him off the field. But then they brought up the field goal unit as if they would have just taken the field goal. I think they were down by 3, and I think that was 4th down. I think my downs are right here, okay? I think they're right. Got to see the field goal unit once again, and Randy Bullock did his thing. He knocked him through, but he actually knocked him through from, I think, about 52 yards today, which was pretty much a big deal because we haven't really seen that yet. So it was nice to see that. Zane actually had one that I think was blocked because it was short and left. I mean, I hope that wasn't his kick. It didn't look like it. It was like, whoa, what the heck was that? It looked like someone must have got a hand on it. The defense celebrated a little bit. It was either he missed one, he had that one that was kind of like blocked, or he missed 2 and he had the one that was kind of blocked. Either way, Bullock was perfect today, and that included a 50-plus yard kick, which was pretty awesome to see him make that. And I did have a little note after practice. Victor Bolden was working on catching punts. I thought that was a very important thing for him to do. It was a lot of times it's been Kennedy and Raymond. And by the way, Raymond's the #1 returner. This guy is just so explosive. I saw Bolden get out there and do some work catching punts. So it was nice to see him get out there. He knows he muffed one, and he doesn't want to do that again. He didn't look bad in practice today. You know, he was flying around. I don't think he had drops today. So that was good. But regardless, he was working on that after practice. So those are my takeaways from Lions training camp. They did some drill work today, some situational work, and that's really what I took away. A couple guys that flashed: Coleman, Amani, Jared Goff also looked pretty good today. I mean, he had some missed passes like every quarterback does, but he also had some pretty passes as well. So let me know your thoughts, comments below. We're going to be live soon, so this video will probably be out after the live stream. But either way, thank you for watching, and I'm out.